Because I run a job board, I talk to applicants almost every day. And many of the people I meet make the same mistake. They have no clear job search goals. So they apply everywhere, every day, all day long. You might think it's smart to send lots of applications. After all, it's a numbers game, right? It's not. The more you narrow your search, the easier everything gets, and the happier you'll be in your next job. Stop chasing every lead. Instead, focus on what you really want. Now, figuring out your goals can be hard, but we have a MaxList resource that can help. Finding focus in your job search. Go to maxlist.org/focus. Our free step-by-step MaxList guide will help you create your own job search goals. Get your copy today. Visit maxlist.org/focus. Again, that's maxlist.org/focus. This is Find Your Dream Job, the podcast that helps you get hired, have the career you want, and make a difference in life. I'm your host, Mac Pritchard. I'm also the founder of MaxList. It's a job board in the Pacific Northwest that helps you find a fulfilling career. Every Wednesday, I talk to a different expert about the tools you need to get the work you want. Every job search has its ups and downs, and how you handle the low moments makes a big difference in your career. Ruthie Ditzler is here to talk about how to build job search resilience with positive mindset. She's part of the talent career coaching team. Ruthie helps you navigate a job search or a career pivot with more confidence and less stress. She joins us from Portland, Oregon. Well, let's jump right into it. Ruthie, why does resilience matter so much in your job search?
So, resilience matters a lot today because of the incredibly tough job market that we are facing. So, we're seeing really drawn out hiring timelines. Data from the talent career coaching team shows that back in 2021, 2022, there was maybe a 3 to 6 week timeline for the clients we were working with when they were looking to find a job. Now I have clients where it's, at least 6 weeks, drawing out to several months, some of them up to a year of job searching. And this is a marathon, not a sprint. So resilience matters because it's important to find what's sustainable so you can support your mental health over the long haul during a really vulnerable time.
How about positive mindset? How does that contribute to resilience? What difference can having a positive mindset make?
Yeah, so I think one of the things that impacts someone's resilience during their job search is negative self-talk. And, in this moment in your life when it's vulnerable, it's stressful, it really activates these automated negative thought patterns that we all have in some form or another. And so being able to have tactics and kind of tricks in your back pocket that can help you shift into a positive mindset really has an impact. And what we see, what the research shows, is that having a positive outlook not only helps you improve your mental health during your job search, it helps you decrease stress, but there is also research that's shown that people who feel more optimistic in general are more likely to land a job. So that mindset really can impact your chances of getting hired.
So positive mindset matters and contributes to resilience. And you talked about the current market, Ruthie. What do job seekers who perhaps aren't as resilient as they might want to be do differently? What kind of mistakes might they be making?
Well, I think what happens, going back to that concept of negative self-talk, is that sometimes we can find ourselves in this almost like a negative vortex, right? So let's say that someone gets laid off, they are all of a sudden experiencing feelings of stress. They might feel guilt, shame, insecurity about their situation. And those are all feelings that are really driven by our survival brain. And when we're in that headspace, we can't access the part of our brain that drives curiosity, that drives empathy, that drives creativity, that really helps us problem solve out of complicated situations. So I think that just ends up being kind of a challenge that people find themselves in, where they're spiraling, and then that spiral is actually like bringing them further down, costing more mental and emotional energy that could be spent, looking for that job that's like a great fit.
And people who are in that state, how do they come across to employers?
Yeah, I think that's a great point. I think that when we find ourselves sort of in that negative vortex point, we're not operating from that, the right side of our brain, from the empathy circuitry of our brain. And that comes across in the sense that when we're feeling desperate, when we're feeling anxious, we aren't showing up as our best selves in the applications that we're turning in. We might find moments of desperation where we're just, logging into LinkedIn and clicking easy apply, kind of getting that quick fix, feeling like you're making an impact. But actually, we know that taking the time to be more intentional and kind of diligently finding opportunities that are a good fit is going to actually lead you to a path of getting a job. So we might find ourselves kind of like we're shooting ourselves in the foot, essentially, when we just are operating from that point of the negative mindset.
You work with a lot of candidates, Ruthie. In your experience, people who are uh, in that negative state, do they understand what's happening and why it's happening?
I think that's a interesting question. I think a lot of times, the clients that I work with, oftentimes when someone does come to work with a career coach, it's because they've come to like a realization that they are at a point where something they're doing is not going well. Maybe they have some sense of self-awareness around, again, that negative self-talk that might be negatively impacting their job search, but they don't necessarily know what to do to shift away from that. Um, so there is a spectrum, I think, of self-awareness, but people might not have the tools they need to make a change.
I want to talk about the tools that you share with your clients to make that change. But for a listener who might wonder if they're in that negative state, what signs should they look for, Ruthie?
That's a great question. So when we're thinking about sort of the concept of mental fitness and thinking about, as I mentioned, those automated sort of negative thought patterns that we can get into, I think what you can really tap into is the emotions that you're feeling and the sensations that you feel in your body when you recognize those emotions. So if you find yourself, as you're job hunting, constantly operating from a place of overwhelming stress, maybe you're feeling frantic, you might be angry, which is a totally valid response in the current job market. If you're noticing sensations in your body, wherever you identify that stress, that anger, that guilt, that shame, those quote unquote negative emotions that are driving you, that can really be a clue that you're in that negative headspace where you're no longer as effective as you could be.
Well, let's talk about what you can do differently if you are in that state and how to avoid it altogether. One of the ways you recommend to build job search resilience with positive mindset is to celebrate moments of progress and small wins. How does this help exactly, Ruthie?
Yeah, so I think that oftentimes when we are in that moment of vulnerability and stress, we've been job hunting, potentially for a while, several months at this point. It can be isolating, it can be demoralizing. You're sending out resume after resume with no response, getting rejected. You start to feel really down on yourself. And so I think this importance then of kind of celebrating accomplishments, recognizing small wins, that can both be what you've done in the past and what you are doing currently, even during this job search period. So when I'm working with clients, a big part of what we do is actually take the time to think back about their work history and do a reflection of what they've brought to the table in previous jobs. And I think this is something that sounds common sense in a way. I think it's something that maybe some of us who are job hunting, we're thinking that through as we're building out our resume. But I don't think a lot of people actually take the time to write it down on paper and see everything, that they've accomplished. So, what are you known for? What have people come to you for support about in the past? What are the results that you have achieved for the organizations and companies you've worked for? And just getting kind of like a pile of your accomplishments on paper so you can see that in front of you can be something really celebratory. Oftentimes when I'm working with clients, they're like, "Oh my gosh, wait, I had no idea. Like I'm feeling proud of myself. Like look at all these things that I've done." I also really like the idea of creating sort of like a yay folder. So having something where maybe you're job hunting and you're currently working, um, thinking about things like taking a moment of reflection at the end of every workday to jot down, what did you accomplish? What are you most proud of? So that you have this, document to look back at later, that you can celebrate the things that you've done. And when you're on the actual job hunt, celebrating those small wins, you can feel like you've spent your entire day working towards this overarching goal of getting a job. But sometimes we reach the end of our day and it's like, what did I even do? Did I even move the needle forward at all? So having, again, like a document on your computer, a piece of paper near, on your desk to jot down some notes, keeping track of all the things all the effort you put forth throughout the day, it can be a really powerful way to improve that intrinsic motivation, boost your productivity, boost your mood. And it's just knowing that you are putting in a lot of work that is eventually going to pay off over time.
Well, let's pause there, Ruthie. I want to take a break. Stay with us. When we come back, we'll continue our conversation, Ruthie Ditzler, about how to build job search resilience with positive mindset. Did you know learning actually makes a sound? It's true. Listen. That's the sound of you learning a new language with Babbel. Babbel was designed by real people for real conversations. With Babbel's help, I'm getting ready for a trip to Munich and other German cities later this year, and I'm learning how to master the basics, how to order food, ask for directions, and talk to merchants, all without having to take out my phone and use a language app. You can do this too. Join millions of Babbel language learners across all age groups. Here's a special limited time deal for our listeners. Right now, get up to 60% off your Babbel subscription, but only our listeners at babbel.com/dreamjob. Rules and restrictions may apply. In our online world, much of your personal information ends up in commercial databases, and businesses anywhere can buy it. This can expose you to a wide range of dangers, from scams and identity theft to online harassment and stalking. Here at Max List, I hear regularly from readers who receive surprise job offers via text or email that sound too good to be true, and always are. Some of the people behind these job search scams get your phone number or your email address from data brokers who publish information about you without your knowledge. The good news is that you have the right to protect your privacy and ask these data brokers to delete your information. Take back control of your personal data today. Incogni can help you reduce spam and prevent identity theft. Incogni reaches out to data brokers for you, requests removal of your personal data, and deals with any objections. Use promo code DREAMJOB to get an exclusive 60% off Incogni's annual subscription plan. Go to incogni.com/dreamjob. We're back in the Max List studio. I'm talking with Ruthie Ditzler. She's part of the Talent Career Coaching team. Ruthie helps you navigate a job search or a career pivot with more confidence and less stress. She joins us from Portland, Oregon. Now, Ruthie, before the break, we were talking about how to build job search resilience with positive mindset. And one of the first steps you recommend is celebrate moments of progress and small wins. And you walked us through a process for recording what you've accomplished in your career, and then in your job search, keeping track every day of the small steps you're taking that are adding up toward progress to getting that job you want. And you talked about the benefits of doing that. Another way you suggest to build job search resilience with positive mindset is to be in community. And what do you have in mind here, Ruthie? Tell us more about that.
Yeah, so I think feedback that I consistently get from clients is this overwhelming sense of isolation as they're job hunting. Oftentimes, if you're no longer working, you're not interacting with as many people throughout your day. And you might be in this scenario where you're just sending out all those resumes, trying to reach anyone, and it feels like you're just throwing your information into the abyss. And so I think that really reinforces that sense of isolation. So one way to contrast, to, I guess, combat that is building community around you. People are social. When we connect with other people, it releases endorphins for us. It helps boost our mood. So I think making sure that you can connect with people throughout your day as a job searcher is really fundamental. There are some different ideas for how to do this. I know for myself, when I was job hunting, I met up with an accountability buddy. So I had someone in my circle who was also job hunting, and we created regular meeting times so that we could check in with each other throughout the week and help provide added support and accountability. So finding people that you also know of who are in a similar situation that you can help support and get support from can be really crucial. And this is something that I do with clients as well, is creating kind of these intimate, almost like job seeker mastermind groups where people can come together, they can brainstorm, learn from each other's challenges and successes, kind of help boost their self-esteem and confidence as they talk through what they're doing in their job search, and get that added kind of external motivation, that added accountability as they're working towards their goals.
What stops people from doing this, Ruthie? What you're saying makes perfect sense, but why do many of us find it difficult to make these connections when we're looking for work?
Yeah, I think a lot of it has to do with shame, right? There's like we were talking about earlier, it's a vulnerable time, it's a stressful time. I think a lot of times people internalize that if they've been job hunting for so long, they must be doing something wrong. Sometimes thinking some of those negative thoughts like, well, why would anyone want to partner with me? Or what could I do to support someone else if I've been struggling with my job search? And yeah, I think it can, again, like you're going into that negative vortex where you're thinking those negative thoughts, and that can kind of reinforce it. When in fact, it's, you never know how you and your insight and your previous experience and you sharing your challenges might benefit someone else. So I think it's always worth making a connection with someone in your network to offer that.
Another step you recommend for building job search resilience with positive mindset is something you mentioned in the first segment, and that's paying attention to mental fitness. And you recommend strengthening your mental fitness. What do you mean exactly here, Ruthie, and how is this going to help you when you look for work?
Yeah. So when we talk about mental fitness, what I'm referencing is a person's capacity to respond to challenges they face in life with a positive mindset rather than getting stressed or upset. And if you're able to strengthen your mental fitness and respond to things more positively, it means you're going to perform better, you're going to be happier overall. It just has this ripple effect across your life. And this is something I work with job hunters, job seekers. I work with them around strengthening their mental fitness because of they're in this place where they're so activated, they're feeling so much stress. And so, like I said, we are often in this moment where because we're stressed, these negative voices are coming in. They're saying, oh, you're why are you even applying for that job? You'll never get that job. Or, you're never going to find another job that you love. Or, all of these different thoughts that can be racing through our head. So if we can get better about identifying, interrupting, and shifting those thoughts away, it's going to have a big impact on our ability to search more effectively.
How do you help people do that, to deal with that negative self-talk and overcome those internal objections? What have you found works best?
Yeah, so I think the first part is really about self-awareness and understanding how those negative voices are running the show. So there's a concept where we can think of those voices as saboteurs, right? It's this part of your brain, these negative emotions who are, kind of the voices in your head, sort of like your inner Darth Vader. And so if we can recognize and identify what's going on, and recognize the emotion that we feel with each of these negative voices, then we can get better at bringing that self-awareness, saying, wait a second, okay, I'm hearing this very strong judge or inner critic in my head. I don't have to believe this thought, right? Like, what am I going to do to stop, kind of reset, and then shift away into a more effective form of thinking? And so there's a lot of these in the mental fitness sort of framework. There's 9 of these saboteurs that we talk about that might be impacting someone's job search. And just building knowledge about like the sort of actions and lies that each of those saboteurs tells you is a really important first step.
And what's a good step once you've identified those saboteurs for overcoming them? Is there some simple step that you recommend for people who are experiencing that self-talk, negative self-talk rather?
Yes. So I think in a moment where all of a sudden, you're feeling a negative emotion, you're like, wait a second, I hear my hyperachiever is coming in, or my avoider is driving the show here, and it's having a negative impact on what I'm trying to do. One really effective technique is actually just having this like mini moment where you're focused in on physical sensation and noticing what's happening in your body. 10 seconds of just resetting, focusing on your breathing, for example, maybe focusing on your sensation of touch and, what does it feel like to rub your fingertip and your thumb together? Listening, to the sounds around you with intense focus. And these are the things that the research shows that when your brain is under an MRI, just that little 10-second moment is going to actually activate that part of your brain that taps into the curiosity, the creativity, the empathy that you need in that situation.
Well, it's been a terrific conversation, Ruthie. Now, tell us what's next for you.
Yeah, so one thing that's new that's going on is, like I mentioned, sort of a job seeker mastermind group that I'm offering, where I bring small groups of job seekers together to combat the isolation that we mentioned and provide, extra camaraderie, support, accountability, so they don't have to job search alone. And then I'm also excited to be finishing a coaching certification with the Youth Coaching Institute to really continue to enhance my ability to support emerging adults. So folks who are just getting started on their professional journeys.
I know listeners can learn more about you and your work by visiting your coaching page on the Talent Career Coaching website. And we'll be sure to include links to both pages and the show notes and the website article about your interview, and that you also invite listeners to connect with you on LinkedIn. And when you do reach out to Ruthie, please mention you heard her on Find Your Dream Job. Now, Ruthie, given all the great advice you've shared today, what's the one thing you want a listener to remember about how to build job search resilience with positive mindset?
Yeah, I think the important thing to take away is that there are steps that you can take when you're feeling in that very negative space. There are tactics that help you shift into a positive mindset. And that understanding of how to identify and intercept ways that your own brain is sabotaging you can help you shift into a more positive job seeking experience overall.
Next week, our guest will be Jessica Miller-Merrill. She's the founder of Workology. It's a workplace resource for HR, recruiting, and business leaders. You can now use what are called AI apply bots to not only find jobs, but submit your resume too. Sounds tempting, doesn't it? Join us next Wednesday when Jessica Miller-Merrill and I talk about why you should avoid AI apply bots. Until next time, thanks for letting us help you find your dream job. This show is produced by Max List. Susan Thornton-Huff schedules our guests and writes our newsletter. Lisa Kislenberry-Anderson manages our social media. Our sound engineer and editor is Matt Fiorillo. Dawn Mole creates our transcripts, and our music is by Freddie Trujillo. This is Mac Pritchard. See you next week. Have you ever been asked this in a job interview? Tell me about a time when you didn't agree with your boss. What would you say? This is what's called a behavioral interview question, and it's a common tactic. Employers use this kind of question to explore your fit for a job based on your past experience. It can be an easy question to answer if you have the right strategy. I show you how to answer these gotcha questions in our free Max List guide, 100 Behavioral Interview Questions You Need to Know. To get your copy, visit maxlist.org/questions. You'll also learn 4 simple steps for answering any behavioral interview question. Again, that's maxlist.org/questions. You can count on getting these questions in your next interview. Why not get the answers before you walk into the interview room? Go to maxlist.org/questions.